Well, it's breaking news, Laura. It's not going to happen, at least it's not going to happen today. He has what are described as COVID-like symptoms, and according to one person in Clive Palmer's camp, one of his media advisors, he's been given medical advice not to travel from Queensland and won't be giving the address. And I'm told he's essentially not feeling well enough, even if it wasn't in a COVID situation anyway. It's a little bit unclear exactly what's happened. I have unconfirmed information. I know it sounds a bit odd, but the Clive Palmer sort of managing of Clive Palmer isn't the same as other political figures, if you like. What I was told by one person is that he had taken a rapid antigen test and it was negative, but I have not confirmed that. But that was what I was told by one person within his camp. So I'm relaying that because it's a little bit hard to sometimes get to exactly what's happened with Clive. I know that that people are trying to speak to him, perhaps his wife as well, to find out exactly what happened along those lines, but that also he would go for a PCR test. So we'll keep trying to track down exactly what has happened. This is interesting for a couple of levels. First and foremost, remember, he's unvaccinated as far as we know. We don't have access to his medical records, obviously, but he said this repeatedly, and it hasn't just been a throwaway line. For example, he was granted permission to appear in court in this defamation trial between him and Mark McGowan to be unvaccinated in the court. He was given permission to do that, so that would imply that this wasn't just him saying he was unvaccinated and perhaps trying to give a bit more weight behind his push against vaccine mandates. He does appear, from everything we've been told, including the possibility of him coming to Canberra and whether he could previously get back into Queensland when they had that mandate, and that being an issue as recently as this year. So from what we know, he's unvaccinated. So obviously that would increase his risk if we don't have any positive test, if he does happen to have COVID. And we know it's spread a lot more in Queensland in the past few months, which previously had very few cases of COVID-19. So we'll see first and foremost what his condition is, whether or not he does have COVID-19. And quite recently, when he was asked about not getting vaccinated, he says he lives a healthy lifestyle and is in much better shape than he was when he was last in Parliament. So that was the reason for not getting the vaccine. As for his address, which you mentioned, is a significant one. He spent $80 million in the last election campaign, essentially mainly targeting Bill Shorten. He didn't get any spots in the Senate. He didn't get any seats in the Parliament either. But he says that time around at the 2019 campaign, it was about targeting Bill Shorten. And a lot in Labor believe that was pretty successful, and at least helping the coalition to victory over Bill Shorten. This time around, he says he has ambitions for himself. He's running for the Senate. So what's he going to try to do with that? Beyond what we've heard, a lot of his controversial comments on COVID, which no doubt will come up, what's he going to try to do? And today was supposed to be an economic speech from Clive Palmer. So perhaps trying to appeal to voters outside of those that are disaffected by COVID-19. And he is, from what I understand so far, still keen to do the address. And so looking at other dates, and I'm saying this in part with my hat on also as a board member of the National Press Club. So that's the event, obviously, he was going to be at today. So we'll see what happens, but that news has just come out of the Clive Palmer camp in the past few minutes.
OK, he was cutting it fine, not travelling to Canberra, only leaving it to 2.5 hours. That news coming through is interesting. We spoke to Red Bridge Group and Simon Welsh, a polling company, earlier in the program today, and Clive Palmer is having a huge effect, like he did last time with this mass advertising campaign, Tom. But one of the things that appears to be really sticking is this idea of telling those disaffected voters, those voters that would normally vote for either of the major parties, just to put whatever is the incumbent candidate in your seat last. So he's not getting into the technical details of putting out a how to vote card. He's just saying whoever it is, put them last. And that seems to be really working. So we'll keep an eye on that, Tom.
Yeah, well, and just to comment on that, so he was going to talk about, he's previously mentioned, just as you say, candidates last. He said whatever he does, it'll be the major parties that will go last as well, and he's mentioned the Greens there as well. So what impact will that have? The other thing, Laura, is previously you can talk about how to vote cards or preferences, how you tell people to put your preferences out there. There's been a couple of issues with that in the past. First of all, would voters always obey that? And does he have a party machine? If you have those instructions but no one handing out for you at booths, it's irrelevant. He claims now he's got 80,000 members who are signed up, but there are more disaffected people out there, and they might actually be able to help people direct those preferences. So if people are willing to obey those instructions, in other words, have an impact on those seats. So I think it's significant too when you look at a lot of those Queensland seats, they're mostly coalition held. So that could have a significant impact on the election. And that means this time around, I think Labor believes Clive Palmer, believe it or not, could be a positive impact overall, just compared to last election when he hurt them.